Welcome to the Muslim Street weekly podcast. I am Malik Aziz, your host, and along with some interesting people, as we normally do, and we discuss interesting things on a weekly basis. You can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com. That's our monthly periodical where you will find hard-hitting articles. Okay. Lance, back there?
Yes, I'm here, brother.
Yeah, I'm getting some feedback. Anyway, you can find us at www.muslimstreet.com. And essentially, technical issues as we start. Lance, we got some feedback.
Yeah, if anybody has their computer volume up, you have to turn it down.
Or if you have YouTube on, please cut YouTube off. All right. So if you streaming YouTube, please please cut YouTube off. Otherwise, we're going to get the. Anyhow, we're jumping right through this. We have with Dr. White, who is the author of Blacklisted, The Price, Speaking the Truth. We're produced out of up in the mountains by Lance Show. Find them at LanceBurns.com. Also across social media. So we want to thank Lance for continuing to produce and direct this program on a weekly basis. Also, guys, got some news out of Turkey. We are in negotiations, the final negotiations of picking up our first sponsor. The name of the company out of Turkey is Arabic Sofa. So our guest Abdulrahman El Gawi from Chicago. I want you to imagine some of the Middle Eastern, North African kind of setups in the rooms where the furniture kind of hugs up against the walls on all four corners. This is a company that produces that, and there's going to be some excellent discounts when you order. Just mention the Muslim Street, you're going to get a $50 discount. In addition to that, you will also get a prayer rug. I mean, literally thrown in at no charge, along with another bonus all the way from Turkey, 3 to 4 days free shipping right to your front door. Again, you can find them at arabicsofa.com. Mention the Muslim Street. Also ask for Brother Khaled. He will definitely take care of you. All right. So the setup for today, guys, that we're going to deal with is something that our co-host, Dr. Viper White, uncovered about 2.5 months ago on our show, as we discussed the Congressional Black Caucus and them, the whole lot of them, really not taking a firm stance against the genocide that is taking place in Gaza. Number one. Number two is, in our research of the Congressional Black Caucus, including the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, one of the black senators from the Northeast, only black male senator, if I'm corrected there, and that would be Cory Booker, into the Zionists from an AIPAC perspective, and they in deep. Millions of dollars, right? So we uncovered that, we dealt with that, we exposed that, and all of a sudden, Jasmine Crockett, who Dr. White touched on and exposed 2.5 months ago on where she actually getting her funding from. That it's not coming directly from AIPAC, but from other Zionist sources. And Dr. White, before I have you jump into this, and Abdulrahman, feel free to add in. One of the things that we like, the Amanda Seals show, you can catch her at amandaseals.com, is that we're challenging the audience to do research on these leaders who are supporting this genocide and see where they're getting the money from. Yeah, everybody knows AIPAC. That's right. Too easy. Dive in, go do the research, and find other funding sources and funding mechanisms that these tricksters, these Zionist tricksters, are using to control your leaders that you have voted to in office is sent to Washington to represent you when in fact they're representing Israel. Okay, so
Absolutely.
Dr. White kind of jump into that.
Yeah.
And Dr. White, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right. Assalamu alaikum, brother. And it's always good to be on the
Salam.
show, and greetings to all the other panelists. But you're absolutely right. Everyone knows APAC. That's the big boogeyman. However, you have several others. For example, J Street PAC, which is called the Jewish Street PAC. Then you have the Republican Jewish Caucus, if you're a Republican. Then you have the Jewish Democratic Caucus Association, if you are a Democrat. Then you have something called the Jewish Virtual Library. Then on top of that, you have several Jewish philanthropists that can give money to these candidates, i.e., Crockett. They give money in the name of their children. They give money in the name of their wives, their husbands, their cousins, and so forth. So therefore, even though that she is right that she doesn't take direct money from APAC, she takes a tremendous amount of money from other organizations. Then also you look at who's endorsing her. I mean, one of her first endorsements so far for this new seat, and who is supporting her as a counsel, has been the Jewish Democratic Council of America. Again, the Jewish Democratic Council of America. They have given her literally millions of dollars over the years. So therefore, what happens is that Crockett and her cronies do not support initiatives that deals with one, African Americans, initiatives that deals with two, issues that are taking place on the African continent, and thirdly, issues that deals with the African diaspora, if it's in Central or South of America or any place else. Her interest is strictly towards the Jewish community. Then on top of that, if you want to look at what she has done, all you have to do is go to several websites and ask what she has produced. And in the last several years, this lady has not even produced a bill to make it out of committee, to turn into a law. Not one. All right. However, she has signed on to support such initiatives like the Iron Dome, Davis Sling, and several other weaponries by the Israeli government. She signed off with the Trump team very quietly a few weeks ago that they should consider another strike on Iran. Along with that, she has not said a mumbling word of what is taking place in Venezuela, or even the case whereby they just also took an oil tanker from Nigeria. This just happened in the last 24 hours. So I mean, so a lot of things that she is not supporting in reference to the people of African descent, but she is supporting issues that deals with the Jewish community. When I say the Jewish community, let me rephrase that deals directly with Israel. So then on top of that, you have her colleagues like Sheila McCormick, who is in Florida. You know, she's under investigation for stealing actually millions of dollars. But again, she gets some money directly from the Jewish Democratic Council of America. Richie Torrey is another. Daryl Issa, which is he's a so-called Muslim out of California. He does the same too. We have a lot of people who is stabbing us behind the back. Thank you.
Yeah, good show. Abed Abdurrahman out of Chicago. The kind of setup for this back in 2011 when I founded the Muslim Street. I was asked to be on a board of a immigrant Muslim activist organization called Emerge. This is 2011, not to be confused with Emerge, something else right, that's out there today. Anyhow, and I'll name a few names here in a second. We were at a conference, I think it was a ISNA conference in Chicago, and there was a sidebar conference. And the topic, Abdurrahman, was should we build a Muslim PAC? Political Action Committee, right? So it was about 40 quote unquote soft Muslim activists in the room. I was the only American male, right? And I happened to be sitting next to Rashida Tlaib. Rashida's to my left. She's going to speak after me. At the time, she is part of the state assembly in Michigan. She's not in Congress yet, right? So when I get up to speak, I come out of the legacy of Malcolm X. Unbeknownst to this immigrant Muslim organization that asked me to be on their board. They didn't know my politics. So when I got up to speak, Abdul-Rahman, I said, I prefaced this to the Muslims, if you are looking to build a political action committee, not that I agree with these no good people, but their example, right, was strong, and that is AIPAC. And I mentioned AIPAC. And then I said that the Zionist lobby controls the Congressional Black Caucus. This is 2011 in August, right? Now, as I'm saying this, Congressman Keith Ellison from Minnesota walks into the room, former member of the Nation of Islam, hawking his final calls at the Million Man March. Now he moved to the center and got him a white girl and left his black wife. And he interrupts me in front of all of these non-black Muslims and heckles my entire speech. Interrupts it, turns the whole room into a fear. Half of them probably in their room didn't even have their green card solidified. They're still running for 9/11. And he just destroys the whole energy in the room. And I didn't want to attack him in front of everybody. I put him to the side and later after the room was split, and I told him, you ever do that to me anyway. This is the backdrop of the Congressional Black Caucus. And at what point does the immigrant Muslim community, non-black Muslim community, see the Congressional Black Caucus sell out the causes that they stood up on, and that's always been liberation?
I can't speak much about the background of the Black Caucus, but just from observing the way their voting records has been, it is exactly like you and the host have said, Brother White, and they've been bought out by the Zionist lobby for the most part, and it's reflected clearly by their records. There's a lot of from that story you just told. Of course, they're going to try to keep that quiet as much as possible, and put up the show on the front of that they're doing things for the people. But their record is usually not that case, whether it's from the Zionist lobby or other powerful business interests that are out there, corporate interests. They pretty much follow that line. I mean, it's the establishment Democrat, they're no different from the establishment Democratic Party, which is not a friend to anybody.
Yeah, and that's at the end of that story. As I took my seat and reluctantly took my seat because I felt, in regards to the issue of unity, that I wouldn't just, go back and forth with this guy. I'm talking about Keith Ellison. I took my seat. Rashida Tlaib is getting ready to be introduced next. She's sitting to my left. She leans over and whispers to me, "You're absolutely right. They are controlled by the Zionist lobby." Shout out to Rashida Tlaib, who stood on business as a Palestinian, and who I just hate to say this, Dr. White, and I want you to kind of chime in, to see her be minimalized and humiliated when Benjamin Netanyahu, a war criminal, the head of the genocide, the new Hitler, the new Nazi framework, comes to Washington, D.C. and gives a speech, and she's minimalized. She don't even have the support of her colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus to say, no, we're standing together on this. Oppression is oppression, and we'll fight oppression everywhere it goes.
Well, this is very complicated, Brother Malik. You're absolutely right. They should have stood with her, and they should have been serious and solidified on what is taking place. But there's a responsibility on both sides. Talib, I know her. I've been on panels with her. She always comes down to Orlando for money. All right. And along with this, when she comes, I can't talk about what she's doing strictly in her district. But when she comes to what we call the dirty South, she does make herself available to the African American. She doesn't speak on issues that are important to the African American community. And even her front person, who Sister Rashida, who is in Orlando, doesn't reach out to the African American community on joint issues. Not at all. Not to me, not to anyone that represents the African diaspora. That is a shame because the African American community, out of all communities in the United States, has been the first ones to highlight what has been taking place in Gaza and Palestine, not just for the last couple of years, but for actually decades. And we put ourselves on the line for this. If it wasn't Malcolm, if it wasn't Martin Luther King, if it wasn't Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, it was Louis Farrakhan, Khalid Muhammad, and several others. And this bridge has to come closer together. So there's a responsibility on both sides. That is not to excuse the Congressional Black Caucus, because as I stated before, they're worthless. They, as Brother Rahman stated, they are part of the establishment, and they work for the establishment. Now, here's a bigger question too, though, and that is to keep Talib, as well as some of the other Muslims who are leaders, and I'm speaking primarily of the Madani that's in Washington, in New York, to keep them from being part or to realign themselves with the establishment. Because once they realign themselves with the establishment, then they will not support our cause and our interests. Like Keith Ellison, he's a turncoat, you see, and several of them. So therefore, our job is to bring out the truth, force them into an area where they not represent us sometimes when it's feasible, but they represent and to align forces with communities consistently and always.
Yeah, and what
do you think, Dr. Rahman?
Yeah.
Yes. To that regard, I think there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. Definitely. One thing that I was at a Muslim conference a few weeks ago, and one thing I did like is that there was multiple meetings with leaders from the African American community and from the political spectrum, maybe not from the Muslim spectrum, but from the political spectrum. And there was African American Muslims, a few at the conference, but for the most part, we made multiple meetings with Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, who were targeted by the establishment. The establishment didn't have their backs, and they subsequently lost their re-election campaigns 2 years ago. Cori Bush is trying to make a comeback. Still has not backed down one iota of the stand for not only for her district and advocating for her district, but also on questions of foreign policy and human rights, including the Palestine issue.
Yeah, so Dr. White, back in 1995, the Million Man March, which drew over nearly 2 million people. Minister Louis Farrakhan, in the build-up to that, really wanted to, at least part of that, was to unify the entire Black movement on both sides. We've been on this show and we talked about the history of the two tracks toward Black liberation, one assimilation and the other revolutionary, Black nationalism. Now, he reached out in his effort to unify the Black movement. He reached out, or they reached out to him, the Congressional Black Caucus, under the leadership at that time of Kwesi Mfume, who was a congressman, who also voted for the 1994 Clinton crime bill, Clinton/Joe Biden crime bill that sent over hundreds of thousands of Black men to jail. Kwesi Mfume, who is currently a congressperson, who's taken nearly $200,000 in Zionist money currently today, and that's what we know, right? That's not what we don't know. How do we go? How do we get from these two forces in the movement, Democratic Power Politics and Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the militant politics, creating what Mr. Farrakhan called a holy alliance? How do we get from there to here?
I mean, remember during that time, and we didn't have internet like we have it now. The media, New York Times, the LA Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, all ABC, NBC, they did a hatchet job on Minister Farrakhan. And so therefore, many of the Black politicians, instead of saying that I know this man, I know that his policies and his policies are good for the African American community and for the United States, and particularly, they ran, and Louis Farrakhan now became the ruler. That is, if you like, is the measuring ruler. If you like Minister Farrakhan, if you support him, or if even you just listen to his ideas, we will not support you. So therefore, a number of members of the Congressional Black Caucus, they began to distance themselves from Minister Farrakhan, repudiate Minister Farrakhan, which means repudiating the revolutionary spirit of Black America. And they ran with this. So now we're at a point where the minister is older, his influence is not as strong as it used to be. So therefore now there is a redevelopment, someone who can take his spot and to redevelop this coalition again. And again, and it was not just the African American leadership, but we had a number of immigrant Muslims.
Yeah, Dr. White, you're breaking up. We're going to jump in.
Or his Islam is not in accordance with what they believe.
Yeah.
Hello, do you hear me? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, now you're breaking.
You know,
so yeah, let me jump in, Dr.
So that's where we.
Yeah, you got some technical difficulties, so you get kind of tunnel sound there. But anyway, Art Mobley from the National Association of Black, one of the founding members of the National Association of Black Journalists, also a founding member of the Dot 423, has joined us. Art, welcome to the panel. We have with us, of course, Dr. Viper White, and also joining us from Chicago, the South Side of Chicago, as he said earlier, Abdul Rahman El Gulay. And I told him earlier, you know, with a name like that, he can move around Chicago pretty good, including the West Side. So Art, Representative Jasmine Crockett, now who announced her candidacy for the Senate out of the state of Texas. Here's some of the support that she's given the Zionist genocide over the last couple of years. One, she has supported pro-Israel resolutions, measures in Congress, countless number of times, key positions and actions that she supports. She supported the Israel right of self-defense, which, oh, by the way, the Palestinians don't have a right to self-defense because it's called terrorist then, and when in fact it was their land that has been taken care of and their people that have been genocide. Her voting record, she has voted yay on key legislation and resolutions that provide aid, money, blood money to Israel. She has condemned the revolutionary forces coming out of Israel to fight the Zionists over the years, the latest of that being Hamas. HR 8034, Israel Security Supplemental Appropriation. HR Resolution 883, HR Resolution 1143, and I can go on and on and on and on and on of her support for anybody out there in the audience want to say, oh, I can't believe that you guys are attacking Jasmine Crockett. She's standing up for Black people. You know what I say to Black people? And I've been at this a long time. I'm talking about the Black liberation struggle. You really like the flowery words. Politics is not what you say. It's what you do. And what she's done is support Israel. All right. So having said that, I want to bring in Art Mobley of the Darfur 23. Art.
Yeah. Well, I haven't followed Jasmine Crockett's career that closely. I've seen the bits and snippets, and I follow it just about as much as I do Rand Paul or his son or anybody else that's in Congress. Bernie Sanders. I mean, they're all the same. It's a monolith in Congress. They all receive money from wherever they can get it. It's desperate times because of the Citizens United and different legislative agendas that have been passed where you have to have millions of dollars in order to run for office. Otherwise, you're not going to get in. You're not going to be able to buy the media time. You're not going to be able to compete. And you're going to be looked at as a political whore for taking money from wherever you can get it from. So, I mean, this is a serious indictment of not just Jasmine and the Congressional Black Caucus, but the entire Congress and the system here in the U.S. as it operates currently. It is definitely something that makes itself beholden, particularly to the Zionists.
Yeah. So when Dr. White and I want to Brother Abdul Rahman jump in 1984 at an international conference at the Savior's Day Convention that Saturday before Minister Farrakhan's major speech. He organized what many have said, and I definitely signed up to it. I was there as being the seminal event of a generation of struggle over the last 50 years that kicked off what the face of our struggle was going to look like. There, he had members and representatives of the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, Gaddafi's organization. We also had members of AIM, the American Indian Movement, all of the spectrums of the militant wing of the Black liberation struggle, Chokwe Lumumba, Omari Obadeli. And what I heard in the speech, Dr. White, and you and I have talked about this, Shirley Chisholm gave a speech that was to the left of anything that was there. I was shocked at the militancy of politics. I say all this to say, Omari Obadeli, co-founder and convener of the Republic of New Africa back in the 1970s, Lumumba made this statement. He said, I was looking to put together in Philadelphia an international conference. And as he looked around the room, he saw the Palestinians, he saw the American Indian movement, he saw all the revolutionary forces from Africa and the United States there. He says to Minister Farrakhan, it looks like that you have it right here. And the conference began, right? So to Abdul Rahman, I'd like for you to kind of chime in of the importance of the Black liberation struggle. And I'm talking about the militant wing of the Black liberation struggle, who has been steadfast on this Palestinian issue. We saw with the South Africans coming out, the first people to come out and defend the Palestinians against this current genocide and bringing Benjamin Netanyahu to the international courts. What do you say?
Oh, it's been very important. I remember a few years ago, the grandson of Nelson Mandela visited Chicago, and we met with him on the South Side with also members of the NOI and other organizations, and the strength that he delivers on these issues of human rights for all people, Palestinians, South Africans, and so on and so on, was very moving to see that support and how important it is. And there needs to be more engagement between all our peoples to advance the human rights of all.
Yeah. So Dr. White,
Yes,
there's an organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center, uh, which is a Zionist front.
absolutely.
Anyone who attacks Israel, even from a perspective of legitimacy and critique, they're listed and voxed on the Southern Poverty Law Center's website, right?
Yes.
Two questions for you. What do you think about this? This as a part of the political infrastructure of getting the Zionist message out there, and from their perspective, right? Because that's part of it, right? To have front groups like this, and then do we challenge the Black liberation struggle to do the same thing, to create organizations and information centers, think tanks who will defend the struggle?
Absolutely. We have to have those organizations not only to defend the struggle, but to support the leadership who speaks out in their interests. Now, the Southern Poverty Center, absolutely, you're right, is a front organization of the Zionists supported by the United States government. All right. And they filter a leverage whereby their views are touched in every university, every college, every organization. And they decide who is anti-Semitic, who is not, who is anti-Israel, who is not. And we take even Black scholars take their information as being truth without doing any research. And when you push back, I've been in this position, I push back. And the director of the center and I had, we had a knockdown argument because he was trying to say that any perspective that is not theirs is anti-Semitic. And I basically told him to go fly a kite. So therefore, we do need to have organizations of our own to do this. Now, these organizations, the Poverty Center is not only just a Zionist group, but they are a pseudo-Christian group. Now, how is that? Last week alone, I don't know if you know, is that they congregated 1,500, listen to my number, 1,500 American Christians to go to Israel. They had a conference. And Netanyahu and his cronies gave orders to those ministers. They were white and Black. This is what you're supposed to teach. One, that
Yeah, Dr. White, you got some audio issues. Can we get Lance? Can we get Dr. White back in?
Dr. White,
it's his internet.
Yeah, so he froze up. Art, you want to chime in?
Sure.
If you see people within your congregation and within your community that doesn't push this and they have a voice, find a way to silence them. That's what it was ordered last week. And then you have a number of ministers. You can look it up. Look. Don't take my word. Look at it for yourself. Coming out, oh, this is God's will. Black ministers, I love Israel. Oh, Jesus is part of Israel. All of this madness. You see, Then the sad thing about it is that we did not have enough immigrants and we didn't have enough African-American Muslims and African-Americans to say anything about this. While this is going on, we're remaining quiet.
Yeah.
You have to get force with force.
Yeah, so the larger question, the macro here, Abdul Rahman, is this Christian nationalist movement that's afoot, that has gained a lot of steam. What do you know about them, and what can you tell us more?
Well, the nationalist movement that was very pro-Israel has, in the last 4 or 5 months, started to shift. A lot of the racist and Islamophobics have also picked up to be anti-Zionist now, and that's making it difficult on Netanyahu and
Well, there continues to be a little bit of freezing here.
Yeah. So Art, I think where he was going with this, we've seen cracks in the road of the MAGA movement, Trump's MAGA movement, as it relates to the genocide that's taking place in Palestine. So what has happened, and we saw with the emergence of podcasters. We saw with the emergence of people like Steve Bannon even turning against him. Joe Rogan, one of the major podcasters, turned against him. In Congress, one of his biggest racist supporters, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, oh, by the way, is probably is the other part of the responsibility of the rise of Jasmine Crockett into national prominence when she gets into her with these personal attacks on the floor of the House. So the MAGA movement, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has come out in the end of this, and this is the irony of this, Art, that I'd like to speak directly to. The irony of Marjorie Taylor Greene, a known racist, a known Christian nationalist, a known MAGA, one of the biggest MAGA supporters that Trump had in his run up to the last election. At the end of this, she comes out attacking Israel, attacking this genocide more vocally than not only anybody in the Congressional Black Caucus, but also her proponent, and that is Jasmine Crockett. I mean, speak right into the hypocrisy, right, that displays.
Well,
you get away with it, and Jasmine Crockett still stands on the sideline taking money from these people.
Well, again, we have to look at it as a macro issue. We have to look at it as a systemic problem, and then look at that problem. I think a lot of times we ignore the, 2, 3, 8,000 pound elephant sitting in the middle of the room, and that is the funding that is sent to Israel every year. You get $3-4 billion going into Israel every year. That money then is accelerated and quantified. They don't have to spend it on anything because they get free weaponry from the U.S. They get all of the supports of other countries that bring more citizenry to that area to occupy Palestinian land, and at no charge and no expense. And this creates a slush fund, so to speak. It creates an acceleration fund that the Israelis can then take and turn into billions, maybe even $1 trillion that they've got sitting there. And they can just dole out money. Every congressman, senator in America, and probably half of the Western world in equivalent parliamentary seats are on the take, because they can get these campaigns funded. They even fund campaigns in Africa and other so-called third world countries, even Muslim countries. There are a lot of Muslims around the world that we know of that are taking money in the same way. They're taking money to enhance their positions and to run their campaigns. So when you have such a monstrous element loose in the world that can pay that kind of bribery, pay that kind of tributation to whoever they want, they can definitely flex and influence the systems. And that is the systemic problem that we need to be brave enough and serious enough to break. Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what she did was on behalf of the white supremacist movement in this country, and they are in competition, at least from a spiritual standpoint, at the Christian level, with the Zionists. They don't like, their particular philosophy and their bent and their attack on Christianity and their dismissal of Jesus and et cetera, et cetera. You can research that on your own.
But Margaret Taylor Greene.
Dr. White, let me before you make that point, I'm coming back to you. I'm coming directly to you now on Art's point about the funding of Israel. Before on exit, and he was lame duck, President Barack Obama, who you voted for, in October 2016, signed a 10-year memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the Zionist project in Israel to fund them to the tune of $38 billion over the next decade. That expires next year. So Obama, whom post-Obama, the Black liberation struggle has opened up the vessels in terms of a negative critique on his lack of engagement with Black people in America, while he's lame duck, sends $38 billion, not to the hood, not to Watts, not to the South Side of Chicago, not to the 4th Ward. He sent $38 billion to the Zionist project for weapons. Dr. White.
Well, I want to go and talk a little bit about Margaret Taylor Greene. And Margaret Taylor Greene, whatever we may think of her, she has pushed back against the Trump agenda on Israel. She has called for defunding of Israel, not sending any more weapons there, not sending any more money there. She fought and said that we should not support Israel attack on Iran, that we should not be doing it for them. She is the first one who called within the GOP at that level that there's a genocide going on. What they're doing to children in Palestine is it's an international disgrace. And she has called out Trump, saying that he has turned his back on these promises, that he was not going to get America involved in any of these, in all these wars. And that is why Trump titled her as a traitor. That is why Kirk's wife has looked upon her as an enemy, the wife of the Turning Point America, Alita. And that is why even many people in Fox has turned their backs on Margaret Taylor Greene. And so in many respects, in reference to the Palestinians and this fight there, she has more integrity than Jasmine Crockett, who has failed to do these things in an aggressive and an open manner. So in fairness, we cannot put, in respect to Arthur, we cannot put Margaret in that line as you would say, in reference to in that perspective, in reference to the Palestinians. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. So, Dr.
Well,
White,
certainly I wasn't putting Marjorie Taylor Greene into any other light other than a white supremacist light. And in that, she stands diametrically opposed to some of the things. And we have to look at these things on individual issues. And that, as we always have, as African Americans in this country, we've always had to quantify our support for Congressional Black Caucus candidates and party members based on what they do on individual issues. On these issues, on the issues of Zionism, Marjorie Taylor Greene is more correct than Jasmine Crockett is. And I think that that's really, really, really the point. But when you look at it in totality, you will have to understand the faucet and the fire hose of money that the Israeli Zionist regime has to wield as they manipulate politicians around the world. I think really what we need to do is sit down with the Congressional Black Caucus and let them know what the public at large is thinking, what the people internationally feel about their bow down or their acquiescence to the Zionists in this critical issue, because the Zionists are moving not only very radically against Palestinians, but they have a greater Israel project in which they want to take much of the entire northern area of Africa and put that under their control. And these are the things that I think are more pressing, and we really need to be paying more attention to, so that we can find ways to deal with that. As terrifying to some people as that is, to stand against this Zionist movement is something that we really all have to do. Congressional Black Caucus is not going to do it for us. Not with the people that they have in the organization right now or in the congregation right now. But hopefully we can get people like Dr. White in there so he can get in there, duke it out, and fight for us.
And we give a shameless plug for Dr. White toward the end of the program. Abdurrahman, $38 billion in military defense. I don't even want to use the word defense. $38 billion
offense
in military offense to the Zionist project. Barack Obama on exit, lame duck, as Trump enters the White House. What about this? I mean, we're just going to forget about these hypocrisies that go on.
That was the nail in the coffin, as far as, I mean, we were seeing what was going on with that administration, and that was just the exclamation point on what we were seeing and what we were vocalizing at the end of his second term. He didn't need to do that, but it's just like the rest of them, right? But that's been surpassed. That 38 million, that was like the minimum that was going to be sent. But they've far succeeded that into the billions and billions of dollars. But the thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene is, she stood up for what she believes in, and I think we need from our communities people like that who are going to stand up with principle, no matter what. Like Dr. White said, she's been kicked out of the party basically. Or they turned their backs on her, but she's steadfast with what she believes in. We disagree with her on almost all of it, other than the Israel issue, but she's strong enough to be there. We need the Black Caucus has not shown, for the most part, that leaders in my community also have not shown that strength. So there's something to be said about that. We need more of that on our side.
Yeah, this is The Muslim Street. You can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com. We are produced out of Accra, Ghana by the Lance Scurv Show. Shout out to Lance. It's a great production. Also, our sponsor, ArabicSofa.com. Mention The Muslim Street. You get a $50 discount on some fantastic stuff. Lance, if you get a chance, pull up ArabicSofa.com for the audience. And you also get free shipping directly from Turkey, 3 to 4 days, on some lovely furniture that's going to set off a room in your house, and they even throw in a free prayer rug. Dr. White, Art mentioned earlier that you're running for office. Tell us a little bit about that, your candidacy, how it's going, the fundraising, how is that going? And in addition to that, here's one question I want you to answer for the audience. If you were in Congress successfully on that next election, on those midterms that's coming up in 2026, November, what are you going to do different than what we see? Because by de facto, you're going to be a member of the Congressional Black Caucus.
I didn't hear the question. We were broken up.
Okay. Did anyone else hear my question? Everybody else?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll repeat it again. You're coming up in an election that, if successful, you will enter Congress in the midterms, November of 2026. And by de facto, you're going to be a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Let's put you there. All right. That day, how do you begin to engage your colleagues on this issue? What are you going to do different?
Tell them the truth, that they must change, or I will work with the people. The people put me in Congress, not the Congressional Caucus, and I would actively fight against them if they are against the will of the people. If they don't begin to do their work, I will expose them like no other. They work under a cloak of secrecy, while giving the American people, i.e., especially the African American community, some terrible goods that what they're doing. They have to be exposed. The monies that they're taking must be exposed. The elements, what they're doing or not doing, must be exposed. I am not there to be their friends, not to be part of any fraternal organization, and I'm not there just to rub elbows. I am there to represent the people, speak the truth, and fight against corruption that is destroying the very fabric of our society, our country, our government. So that's what I would do. I don't find it necessary to play games. In reference to our campaign, it's an Everyday People campaign. We are getting a lot of momentum. We're the only ones in the United States that has been talking about openly about what needs to be done about the homeless problems, unemployment issues. We're also talking about that there are 500,000 young people are missing annually in the United States, and no one is saying the doggone thing about them. We don't know what's happening to those young people. We're also the only ones who talked about that this war that President Trump is trying to do in Venezuela is about mineral resources, and it actually was laid. It was actually founded. It was laid by the foundation was laid by President Biden, who developed a military base on in the disputed lands between Guyana and Venezuela. The taking of the tanker in open seas was a national disgrace. It's gangsterism. What they did in Nigeria with the same tanker is gangsterism. That we're speaking out about this. And here's the last thing that no one has even talked about already. The last couple of days, there was a coup in Benin, right? Yeah. And the president of Benin, he called the French governor. I mean, the French president Macron. Macron called Nigeria. All right, and Nigeria sent their air force in there to crush the coup within hours. All right, they did not want to see a strong people's uprising. Here's the question, though: if Nigeria can crush a coup in another country, why the heck they can't deal with issues in their own environment that is causing for Trump to talk this nonsense about going into the interior of Nigeria to stop the so-called killing of Christians? You see, all of this is connected. And all of this is connected by the fact that no one is asking the right questions. No one is pulling up these contradictions. And no one has the doggone testicles to say these things are wrong. These issues I would bring up in Congress. As Trump said, what do I have to lose? All right. It's for the people.
So Abdul Rahman and also Arch can jump in as we close out the program. You can again. This is the Muslim
support our campaign.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and support the campaign absolutely.
Dr. Issa for Congress.
Yeah. So there's a Muslim congressman from Indianapolis in the Congress, Andre Carson. Been there for a long time. In excess of 10 years, I think he took over, it's a legacy position for one of his parents, his mom or daddy, something like that.
Yes,
he hasn't come out in support of Israel. He's Muslim, but he's awfully quiet. It's like if you quiet as this genocide is taking place in your generation, what do we say about this? I mean,
you say what Dr. King said. He said we will remember those people who were quiet in the face of controversy. This is a speech. It's a type of speech. Silence is a type of speech. But I also wanted to go back to something that Dr. White said and Brother Rahman said as well, and that when we look at things that happened in Benin this past week and in Africa, and we look at the things that are going on even with the Congressional Black Caucus and those members who are silent, we still get back again to that giant elephant in the room, which is the Zionist pocketbook that is putting strains and pulls on everybody and all of these issues. Believe it or not, there are direct ties between what happened in Benin with Nigeria, with Macron, the U.S., and the Zionist movement, Zionist funding for that system. They wanted to prevent the Sahel states, who do not have direct access to the ocean right now. They wanted to continue to keep those states landlocked. Benin would have been a straight access to the Gulf there in Africa, and of course the Atlantic Ocean in the process. So if you give them, when the Sahel states have access to the ocean, they're going to have access to international trade with the rest of the world, and the ability to ship and to receive goods was part of what they were trying to prevent in doing that. So we have to really, like I said, keep our eye on the larger picture. It is a big scheme. The Zionists are going to continue to work with the white supremacists when it's convenient, and vice versa. And of course, it's always going to be at the expense of Muslim people, of African people, and Africans throughout the diaspora. We need to fight for unity in the Pan-African movement.
Yeah, before Dr. White, before I bring you in, Brother Abdul-Rahman, thank you for joining us. I know you got to jump on another meeting, fighting for the liberation of the Palestinian people. In a few minutes, any closing remarks before you jump off of our meeting?
Yeah, Andre Carson is not too vocal, but I have to say that he's been solid the last 4 or 5 years on a voting record, co-sponsoring resolutions for Palestine, anti-Israel. So I have no complaints. His personality is not to be vocal, I guess, but he needs to be. We've had others who are more vocal. As far as I wish Dr. White the best. We'd love to have him in Congress to replace the outgoing Jasmine Crockett, because she's leaving Congress to run for Senate in Texas, which is a red state. It's a long shot. And, let's face it, a Black woman, Democrat, trying to get that Senate seat is a very long shot. She probably has no chance. So she's given up her Congress seat. I don't know if she's going to get something on the back end for this, or, but she's leaving Congress. So I don't know how that helps her community, fighting for the folks in her community, if she's not there. So the behind the scenes players pretty much have going to get her out of Congress. She has no chance for Senate. So for them, it's a win-win. The guy who might have a chance to win on the Democratic side, because he has more centrist views on some subjects, a white man who speaks Spanish, very Christian. He has a slight chance of maybe getting that seat, especially if the Republican he's running against is corrupt. They see that, and he's been not great on the Palestine-Israel issue, but he has said no AIPAC money, and we have to look at the funding. He's been raising some red flags against them. They see him as a threat. So how do you get rid of this threat? Allred was not doing well in the polls, so they pushed him to take a Congress seat. They pretty much bullied him out of that race, and they put Crockett. They pumped her up to take that seat, to try for that seat. But I don't see her winning it at all. So I question what she's going to do for the community when she's not there. I think this is all a play. She's playing into their hands of the powers that be.
Yeah, Dr. White.
Yeah, I agree with Brother Bachman. If Crockett had any sense, he would have continued, even though they had redistrict her district. She should have stayed in there and grafted a narrative that is palatable to her new district, and still have her influence. I think it's more a testimony on her character and what she sees as herself as a political player, as opposed to what she can do for the community at large. So that's the bigger issue. And again,
Yeah, she got
Mr.
redistricted. We saw this this playbook before during the Bush administration when they redistrict Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney in Georgia.
Right.
Literally
Yeah.
tapped her out, and that was the end of that. And the same thing, unfortunately, has done to Jasmine Crockett. I want to thank our guest, Abdul-Rahman El-Dali, out of Chicago. Art Mobley, founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists and also the Darfur 23. Dr. Viper White. They got a big announcement coming up for us in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. Blacklisted, the price of speaking for truth. Dr. White, you have anything before we close out?
I didn't hear you very well, but please support our campaign. Go out, Amazon, go and get Blacklisted, The Price of Speaking Truth, the most important book out there right now on our political and cultural history. Thank you, Muslim Street. Thank you, colleagues. And the people united will never be defeated. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next week, guys. Same time, same station. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.